Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, Art with Ray. I am Ray, and today I'm here to bring you a watercolor comparison. Today we are going to be looking at 6 colors from both Daniel Smith and QOR. They are generally the 6 colors that you might use in a split primary set. Generally, these are the most used colors for split primary, most popular. So we're going to take a look at them. So the parameters here are they either have the same name or the same pigment number. So if they have the same name, they may not necessarily have the same pigment number. And if they have the same pigment number, they may not have the same name. So we're going to take a look. We're going to swatch them out. We're going to take a look at them. We'll talk about maybe why you might want to pick one over the other, depending on what you're using. Or, decide you want them both on your palette. Right now, I'm looking at making a custom palette. So I don't think that I need doubles of everything, but there might be some stuff that I might want to keep both. So let's get started. The first color we're going to deal with is Hansa Yellow Light. We're going to start with Daniel Smith's version first. So let me get that going here. So Hansa Yellow Light from Daniel Smith is PY3. It is a light pass rating of 2, which is very good. It's low staining and semi-opaque. And it's not re-wetting as well as I'd like it to. Let me just get some more pigment on the brush. All right, there we go. It's a very pretty, very bright yellow. Let's water it down a little bit. And bring it down. And that's a beautiful, very, very pretty Hansa Yellow Light. And again, it is made up of PY3. It is a light pass rating of 2, which is very good. It's low staining and semi-opaque. That's the Daniel Smith version. Let's take a look at the QOR version. I did not I did not spray down the paints before I started. So, Hansa Yellow Light in QOR is also made by PY3. It is also a light pass rating of 2. It's semi-staining and semi-transparent. Let's take a look at that. It's also a very bright yellow, very pigmented, really pretty. Let's get some of the pigment off and start watering it down and see how that looks. Okay, so this is a very, very pretty Hansa Yellow Light. They're both pretty close. So for this one, I guess it's a matter of what you want to paint or how you like to paint. So for this one, they're both so close that, and they both have really good uses. So the Daniel Smith is a low staining and semi-opaque. So if I was not going to glaze with this color, I would probably choose the Hansa Yellow from Daniel Smith. But because most of the work that I do does involve glazing, I would choose the Hansa Yellow Light from QOR because it's semi-staining and it is also semi-transparent. So the transparency is a little bit better on the Hansa Yellow Light from QOR than it is from Daniel Smith. But here, either one is a good choice. But for my palette, this goes to Hansa Yellow Light for QOR. All right, so the next color we're going to be looking at is Nickel Azo Yellow. It's one of my actually favorite warmer yellows. I really do enjoy that. So let's take a look at Nickel Azo Yellow from Daniel Smith. Okay. So Nickel Azo Yellow is made with PY150, has a light pass rating of 1, which is excellent. It's low staining and transparent. I do not know. I'm having such a hard time rewetting things today. Okay. It's a beautiful warm yellow, very pretty. Get some pigment off the brush and lighten it up. And you can see it does lighten beautifully. It lightens to a, like, I don't know, I would say a more golden yellow, like a light golden yellow. It's very, very pretty, and a beautiful choice. Okay, let's take a look at QOR's nickel azo yellow now. And QOR's nickel azo yellow is also made with PY150. It is also light fast rating of 1, which is excellent. This one is heavy staining and transparent. So let's take a look at that. Right off the bat, you can see that the QOR version is a bit more, at least to me, it looks a little bit more pigmented. It's a bit darker than Daniel Smith's version. Let's add some water and water it down, see how that looks. And as you water it down, it's still, in my opinion, brighter than Daniel Smith, a little bit more pigmented. So they're both beautiful, and there's really not much of a difference between the two, except for its staining properties. Now, again, this is another one, like I was going to say that I said for the last one, in that either one of these would be a good choice. Now, if you're not glazing, the Daniel Smith is a low staining and transparent. But again, most of my work involves a lot of glazing. And because the QOR version is heavy staining and transparent, this is the nickel azo yellow that I will be putting on my palette. But again, they're both perfectly good choices, both beautiful colors. It just depends on what you are looking to do. So, so far so good. Next color is from Daniel Smith is Pyrrole Scarlet. Now, Pyrrole Scarlet is a beautiful, warm, very, very warm red. And it's going to be compared to Pyrrole Red Light from QOR. Now, they have different names, but they use the exact same pigment. So we're going to take a look at that. So we're going to start with Pyrrole Scarlet from Daniel Smith. Okay, Pyrrole Scarlet is made from PR255. It has an unrated, it's not rated by the ASTM, but Daniel Smith's personal ratings give it a light fast rating of 1, which is excellent, and it is medium staining. It's a beautiful color. Just need to get some more on here. It's a very bright, bold, almost like a fire engine red. Really nice color. I don't use warm reds on their own very much. I use them to mix more than anything else. And this Pyrrole Scarlet makes gorgeous oranges, bright oranges, and some really nice muted purples. So it's actually a color that I use a lot, just not on its own. You can see it flows pretty well too. And as it lightens up, it has kind of an orangey tinge to it, and more of like I wouldn't say a straight up pink, but more of like maybe a pink skin tone color. So it's really pretty. And again, it is made with PR255. It is unrated, but they rate it as a light fast rating of 1, which is excellent, and medium staining. Let's take a look at QOR's version. Now, QOR calls this Pyrrole Red Light. It is also PR255. This is rated by the ASTM with a light fast rating of 1. It's semi-staining and semi-opaque. And let's see how that looks. This one is a very pretty version. This one almost seems a little bit more red than orange. It's a little less warm, it looks to be, than the Daniel Smith, but not much. Let's put some water here and see how it looks when we lighten it up. Flows beautifully. All QOR colors pretty much flow beautifully. Okay, so we're seeing here that again, it also waters down to a pinky color. It's more of a, I'd say like more of an orangey peachy pink. It is a little less warm, like I said, than the Daniel Smith version. So depending on what you're looking for, kind of depends on maybe which one you would choose. Now, for me, um, I don't know. They're both great. They're both pretty much the same. Medium staining. Both are semi. Cores are semi opaque, and so is Daniel Smith's. The only real big difference is that the Purell Red Light from Core has been rated by the ASTM and is rated by the ASTM with a light factor of 1, and Daniel Smith's is unrated, but their own testing shows a approximate light factor of 1. This actually, I would probably put both on my palette, and the only reason why is that one is definitely a little bit more warmer than the other. So I think both are going to go into my new palette. But either one would be a great choice. Again, because of their staining properties, for glazing, they're both going to work about the same, theoretically. So let's go on to the next color. Now, the next color is interesting. The next color we're going to be looking at is quinacridone magenta, in both Daniel Smith and Core. The big difference here is that they're two different pigments. Again, same name, two different pigments. Daniel Smith uses PR202, which is not as readily used for quid magenta. Usually, the quid magenta pigment that's most commonly found is PR122, which is Core. So we're going to take a look at that. We're going to take a look at the differences in color and all of its properties. So let's start with Daniel Smith. Quid magenta, again, it's made up of PR202. I just want to make sure I get the right color. Okay, so it's this one here, I believe. Okay, so let's swatch out quinacridone magenta. Okay, this is a beautiful version of quinacridone magenta. It doesn't seem to be as bright as other quinacridone magenta. It seems a little bit more muted, but I kind of like that. So let's get a little bit of the pigment off and get some water and see how it looks watered down. It waters down beautifully to a nice soft pink. Um, so it's really, really pretty. So I don't know if I give the specs. This is quinacridone magenta by Daniel Smith. It's made up of PR202. It has, again, this is an unlisted light fast rating, but they give it a light fast rating of 1, which is excellent using their testing. It's medium staining and it's transparent. So let's take a look at Core's Queen Magenta. Now, Core uses the more traditional pigment for quinacridone magenta, which is PR122. So we're definitely going to see a difference in the color, in the hue, because they are two different pigments. So let's start. Again, this is made up of PR122. It is also not rated by the ASTM, but Core's own light fast testing has shown it to be, again, like Daniel Smith's, approximately a 1, which would be heavy staining. Which would be excellent light fast. Let's add some water here to lighten it up and water it down and see how that looks. This is, when it's watered down, is a much brighter pink than the Daniel Smith version. Again, seeing the two, the Daniel Smith version is a little bit darker and a little bit more muted than the Core. Okay, so looking at the two of them, and I'll say right off the bat, both are going on my palette because they are two different pigments and they can definitely be used in different ways. I like them both. Now, the big difference besides the pigment is the staining. The Queen Magenta from Daniel Smith is medium staining, and the Queen Magenta from Core is heavy staining. Both are transparent. So if I was going to use these to glaze, either one would work, but clearly I would use the Core because it is a heavy staining. But both of these colors are going on my palette. Both of them are really, really pretty and would be great on anybody's palette. So that's really more of a personal choice, a personal kind of opinion. I mean, all of them are, but there are definitely uses that I find to be more useful depending on what you're using. So the next one is going to be a staple on everybody's palette for the most part, and that's Phthalo Blue Green shade. Um, so we'll start with Daniel Smith's version of Phthalo Blue Green shade, and then we'll move on to Core. Okay, so um, Daniel Smith's Phthalo Blue Green shade is made with PB15.3, which is Phthalo Blue Green shade. It has a light fast rating of 1, which is excellent. It is heavy staining and it's transparent. Okay, it's a really pretty phthalo blue, very pretty. So let's water it down and see what it looks like when we get some water on here. It waters down beautifully to a lighter blue with clear green undertones. Gorgeous, gorgeous phthalo blue. Love this phthalo blue. Okay, so the next one is going to be Phthalo Blue Green shade by QOR, also made with 15:3, which is Phthalo Blue Green shade. So let me get that swatch for you. Okay, so QOR's Phthalo Green shade rather, is, like I said, 15:3, which is Phthalo Blue Green shade. It is a light pass rating of 2, which is very good. And it is heavy staining. And this says it's semi-transparent. And let's add some water and see what this looks like watered down. It is a beautiful phthalo blue. It waters down gorgeous, really beautiful light blue with a, like I said, with a green undertone. Okay, so let's talk about these two. So they're both made with the same pigment. They're both heavy staining, so either would be good for glazing. The big difference is that Daniel Smith's version is transparent and QOR's version is semi-transparent. Now, either one would work really, really well for glazing, but if I was to choose for glazing, I would choose Daniel Smith because it is transparent. In my palette, the Daniel Smith Phthalo Blue Green shade is what I choose between these two, but I do use the QOR Phthalo Blue quite a bit also. Both are beautiful colors and both are really great choices. Okay, next and the final two colors are ultramarine. Now, Daniel Smith's version is French ultramarine and QOR's version is ultramarine. They're both made with PB29, which is the pigment code for ultramarine. So the colors are definitely going to be a little different. French ultramarine tends to be a little bit more warmer than regular ultramarine and tends to granulate less than regular ultramarine. So let's take a look at the Daniel Smith ultramarine. French ultramarine, I'm sorry. Okay, so Daniel Smith French ultramarine is made with PB29. It is a light fast rating of 1, which is excellent. It is a granulating color, and it is a medium staining transparent color. And let's water it down, see how it looks watered down. And as you see here, as we water it down, it becomes a very, very soft, red-leaning blue. It's a beautiful color. I actually prefer French ultramarine to regular ultramarine. I just like my ultramarine to be a lot, or as red-leaning as possible. And I do enjoy granulation, but we'll see as that dries how much granulation we get with the French ultramarine from Daniel Smith. Okay, so the final color is Ultramarine by QOR, also made with PB29. Okay, so QOR's Ultramarine is made with PB29. It has a light fast rating of 1, which is excellent. It is a granulating color. It is semi-staining and semi-transparent. Let me just get a little bit more color on here because I don't know. All right, let's add some water and see how it looks watered down. You can see it flows really nicely. Okay, so here's something that I find, I don't know, maybe a little bit different. The QOR Ultramarine almost looks, and it could just be because it's wet, almost look a little bit more red leaning than the Daniel Smith French Ultramarine, which I find very, very interesting. All right, so between these two, there's not too much of a difference between the two. They both use the same pigment number. They're both staining and they're both granulating. Although the QOR has a little squiggle granulation, which means it's kind of granulating. It doesn't. I guess it doesn't granulate as much as some other ultramarines. So the only difference, and it's so slight, is that the Daniel Smith French Ultramarine is transparent and the QOR Ultramarine is semi-transparent. So for me, I believe that the QOR Ultramarine is the one that will go on my palette. I think it's just a little bit brighter. I think it has slightly. I just kind of like the color overall. Although you cannot go wrong with any of these. So these are 6 of the most commonly used split primary colors from both Daniel Smith and QOR. And as you can see here, just because something has the same name does not mean it's the same color. And conversely, just because something has the same pigment number doesn't always mean it's going to look exactly the same. There's some pigments such as PB19 that makes like 20 different colors and they all look really, really different. So I hope you've enjoyed this comparison of Daniel Smith versus QOR. And really quick recap of my choices. So from the Hansa Yellow Light from Daniel Smith or from QOR, my choice is the QOR because it is semi-transparent and it is semi-staining. From the Nickel Easel Yellow between Daniel Smith and QOR, my choice is QOR because it is a heavy staining versus a low staining. For the Purell Scarlet between Daniel Smith and Purell Red Light between QOR, my choice for this would be both. I would put both on my palette just because the Purell Scarlet from Daniel Smith is a bit warmer, in my opinion, than the Purell Red Light from QOR. So I can definitely see myself using both of those without any issue. The next one is Quin Magenta, Daniel Smith versus QOR. Both of these are going in my new palette. And it's because they are 2 totally different pigment numbers and they have a pretty different look to them. I really love the fact that the Quin Magenta from Daniel Smith is a little bit more muted than the Quin Magenta in QOR, but I love the brightness of the QOR. And I also like the watered down pink that comes with that a little bit better than the Daniel Smith, but I can definitely see myself using both, so both are going on my palette. Next is the Phthalo Blue Green shade, both made with 15:3. For my palette, I choose the Phthalo Blue Green shade from Daniel Smith, and the only reason why that is because both are heavy staining, but the Phthalo Blue Green shade is transparent and the QOR is semi-transparent. So given the choice between 2 that are basically kind of close to the same, I'm going to use the transparent color because I do a lot of glazing. And finally, the Ultramarine. We have French Ultramarine from Daniel Smith and Ultramarine from QOR. My choice for Ultramarine would be the QOR Ultramarine, and the reason why that is that it I just like the color a little bit better. Although the French ultramarine from Daniel Smith is transparent and the ultramarine from Court is semi-transparent, I still like the bolder color from the ultramarine from Court. Everything will be listed in the description with links on where to find these paints. If you have any questions, comments, please put them in the comment section. And tell me what you feel, what you think are the best colors in the between these two, what you like the best. So I hope everyone's having a great day or night whenever you're watching this, and paint on.